Now we're going to explain to you the welding process and what rods to use and how to identify your bumpers as far as what they're made out of. Alright, the first thing you're going to want to do in doing a welding of a bumper is identify the type of plastic that you're about to weld. In this case, we're welding a GM bumper which came off of the back of a Camaro, brand new Camaro at that. And the type of plastic that they use at GM mostly is TEO. They use some polypropylene. But if you'll notice, it says TEO right here on the right side here of this bumper, which that would be the left side of the rear of the car. But always find this mark. On OEM bumpers, it will be on it usually with the part number. So now you know you're going to be welding TEO. But if that had said PUR, you would have used the old clear spaghetti rod, we call it, which you'd use the airless welder. But we got a rod here which is a polypropylene TEO rod which welds TEO, TPO, and polypropylene. Okay, we're going to discuss first of all different materials that bumpers are made out of. First of all, you're going to see the biggest portion of all bumpers are made out of polypropylene, which it's got a little two letters, PT, which means polypropylene. Then you're going to get into General Motors products and different ones like the Saturn. One thing another was TEO, which is thermoplastic. Alright, you're going to see Ford has got TPO written on theirs, which is another type of thermoplastic. Now, there's always these three letters on the back side of about 98% of all bumpers on the market today. All three of them weld with the same rod. Chrysler is using a lot of polypropylene. Honda uses polypropylene. Toyota, Nissan, and different automobiles. Always look for your letters. But always determine before you start to weld what you are going to weld, whether it's polypropylene, TPO, TEO. You need to know that in advance. Remember this, PUR, the old thermoset plastic, that was the old yellow bumpers that Ford made. GM made a one that looked kind of green. Chrysler made them that looked yellow. Most of this is off the market today. You see very, very little of it. It's being taken off the market for a reason, and so this is what you weld with the little airless welder, the PUR. It's polypropylene is what it's called. Alright, polyethylene, excuse me. Alright, we're going to do some weld for you today. We've made some cuts into this here new bumper here. Just about destroyed a $600 bumper. But this bumper right here where I've made these cuts, as being a recycler, I ran into a lot of bumpers that had a mark like this in them because they had been where they ran into a receiver hitch on another vehicle. Also, we put a mark right here. We cut all the way through the bumper, which is showing you a type of weld we're going to do. What we also want to go into is this. A lot of the bumpers now have got brackets made separate from the bumper, but they're welded on. And the reason for them, they're made out of a little different material. They're made to hold a light. And even on this GM product, you'll notice there's a bracket that's riveted on right side the tail lights. And it's made out of polypropylene. You can look on it, it's got an emblem indicating that. But it's a much harder grade of the polypropylene, which means they left something out to make it harder. Usually you'll notice when they say PP, they'll have minus something or plus something on that insignia. We're also showing you where this bracket is broken too, but we're going to show you how to weld it back. Also, we're going to show you, turn to the other side, where a tab is broken where it slides in on the quarter panel. A tab is broken where the little 10 millimeter screw went up into the quarter panel, and even should be right here. I think I've done the other side. Okay, right here where one's tore out. Alright, these are very simple and easy to put back. A lot of bumpers are discarded because of these type tears, but there's no need to discard a bumper for a minor issue. And so what we're going to show you is how to put these back. There's two ways to put these back. Number one, you can weld it the same way you weld a regular weld that we're going to show you. But if you get into where you want to prevent damaging your paint from the front side on these, the way to do that is to get a rag a towel that's saturated with water. And when you get ready to do your weld, put it on that facer and put something there to keep it up there tight. And that coolness will keep this weld from penetrating through and damaging your facer. And so I'll show you that here in a little bit. So we're going to prep this bumper for some welds and go directly into it. Alright, the first thing I want to do is show you how to prep for a weld. Number one, we've cut this bumper all the way through. That's what that is. So what you want to do is take your burr tool that's made just like this on your little die grinder. You don't want to use the pointer type. So what you're going to do is you're going to half your cut into both sides here. So I'm going to do this right quick like that. So we've got that ready now for the second step. The second step is you don't want to leave any paint that your weld will go over onto. So we're going to take 180 grit on a DA and we're going to cut back just a little bit. Now if you'll notice, I've got that back out of the way of my weld. You can also use this same thing when you get ready to prep it for primer. Just go ahead and feather edge further over. Alright, we're going to blow this out, get all that dust out of it. Now then, the next step is you always remember this. All welds are done from the facer side first and then weld the back side. So we're going to take a piece of aluminum tape and we want to put this on the back side. So I'm going to flip this bumper over where I can put this on. Now, while I've got this flipped over, what I'm going to show you is this. I've got a whole bunch of other welds we're going to do. These and that one over there and this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this tape on all of them. And what I want to do is I want that tape, it don't matter if there's some burrs underneath that if you want to get it out, because we're going to melt that all out of the way. Alright, now what I want to show you is I put tape over all these cuts. That's the one that looked like an H. We've got this regular one we had over there on the front, which is a practice weld we're going to do. And then we had this V weld. We've got them taped real good from the back side, because what we want is that heat to go down against that tape and cause our welding rod to melt real good. Alright, we're ready to do a weld. And I want you to take note, when I hit this trigger on this welder, you're going to hear a click. Now, every time you hear that click, you're going over to nitrogen. The gauge is indicating it. And by the time you get this rod hot enough to perform the weld, the nitrogen will be at this tip. So what we're going to do here is, and I've learned to do this a little trick. You can, since this welder's already hot, if you want to, you can drop it down in there and kind of get you a little bit of preheat. But always take and heat the tip of your rod and get it to where it becomes glassy or melting. And if you'll notice, if that camera's showing it, that right there is melting out on the tip. Now that becomes real sticky. What I do is I stick it down away from where my weld starts at. And when I get my weld where there's a little bubble showing up under it, I hope this camera's showing it, there's a little clear glass bubble. So what I do is turn at about a 45-degree angle, and I start running right on top of that bubble with that rod. Now what that'll do is it will make that weld or that material flow all the way to the back side where the tape is at. And believe you me, it does get good and hot. So you have to be careful about how close you let your thumb get to it. Alright, when you get that, and this is nothing more than a practice weld so you can see what the process is. It'll be the same process on all the other welds there that I do. Take the back side of your welder and melt it off, and then get right here where you started that, and always remember to melt that off a little bit. Now there's a reason for that. If you don't melt it off, your buddy will come up there and jerk your weld out of your slot that you put it in, because these welds have to come back past room temperature where they're holding real good, because you can pull them out when they're hot, believe it or not. Now that weld is bonded in good. Look at the sides. You see how it built up on the sides. The reason I use the clear rod is that way on these black bumpers I can see. Use a black rod where you're doing headlights or something where you want the material to match. It ain't necessary here because you're going to cover it up with filler and you're going to cover it up with paint. Okay, I'm going to go to and do these other welds and show you how these welds will go and complete them all the way out.
Go ahead.
Okay. Alright, we done the third step there, which is we prepped it with the DA, and we got our tape on the back side, and I showed you where if you want to, you can always kind of drag that through there and kind of get you a little heat. I flip my rod over where I'm starting on the opposite end of it, and if you'll notice, I'm clicking in the nitrogen every time. And you, if you want to, you can heat it up off of the air setting and then engage your nitrogen. Main thing is you got to get that rod hot. But when you click in your nitrogen, start it right off the top of the weld there, about a 1/4 inch from it. And like I said, watch it and let it drop over in there to where you see a little clear bubble. And when I say clear bubble, that is your material melting down in there. You don't have to run the full segment if you want to. Are you running? I'm running all the way through to the back side where the tape is now. And what this nitrogen does, it prevents that moisture from getting in behind that weld. Whereas if you were trying to weld with just straight air, plus the shop hose has usually got actual water in it a lot of times on a lot of shops, but it prevents you from having that problem. And when you have a problem with a weld, like I've got right there where it kind of messed up a little, I just melt that right back over there, out of my way, and I start that weld again with the same little clear bubble. This is nothing more than a process that it takes getting used to running the weld. Because once you see that bubble, sometimes it'll turn black because of the material that you're melting against that rod is the bumper itself, and the bumper's black. So you're going to see that it's melting down in there then. I like to point out that this Tweako switch that's in this handle is very easy on the finger. It's not like holding something that would cause you to become uncomfortable and leave a mark in the tip of your finger after using it for 5 minutes. This particular switch is very easy. It originally was used on MIG welders, and the biggest part of them when they first came out. And of course, MIG welders have changed a lot since the first time I picked one up. Alright, we're going to grab the second rod and we're going to go over here to this here particular weld right here. Now on all welds that run all the way out to the edge, we want to remember that we put a T-weld on. I'm going to click it in and get this good and hot. And you'll see it'll turn clear as glass. And I'm going to stick it down right there. It don't matter if it shakes around a little bit. Once you get it started is what's important, that it's going right down into that little slot that you cut out with that burr tube. Like I said, these welds are very easy to run. You'll be surprised at how much landfill is being used up just from bumpers that's being thrown in them that could have been repaired. A bumper that is on the vehicle and got light damage, it's easy to repair. It's after you drag it across the floor 2 or 3 times and put extra damage on it that it makes it almost impossible to repair. And reason being because you're putting extra damage on it. What I'm doing here is I'm going to run what we call a T-weld. I always kind of run a light one on the front side, and then I run a raw one on the back side. And then just take your back of your welder and just smear it off. Come back up here where you started at, like I said, and remember to kind of knock that off. Okay, we're going to go to the next weld. We're going to set our bumper up on there just a little bit. Most welds on bumpers don't take but about 20 minutes to perform. The biggest thing with repairing bumpers is waiting on your waterborne primer to dry. You notice that I mentioned waterborne primer. I always use waterborne primer over where I have did any welding. Reason being, it's non-aggressive. It does not cause those release agents in that bumper to come out underneath what you've been working on. Because if those release agents come out underneath where you've been working, your material is not going to stick. So what you're doing is, by using waterborne primer, you're sealing off the release agent, and then you can put your filler on the surface of the waterborne primer by simply sanding it with 180. Just lightly sand it, come back and put you some good polyester filler on it, let it set up, come back and work it just like you would have been in a fender or anything else as far as sanding it and blocking it and getting it ready for primer. And then come back and put, after you get it worked down, put primer over that. We've used this process on welding bumpers for about 12 years. Before that, we only used the old process, which was using the airless welder, and had a lot of bumpers to tear up during that time because it doesn't hold on polypropylene, TPO, and PEO. This right here will definitely weld it together because you're fusing the material back together with this, whereas with the old airless welder, all you were doing was smearing a weld. You really wasn't burning it in. This process here melts it, burns it into the bumper to where it holds. Remember I said weld all your welds on the front side first. Reason being is these welds, they cause a bumper to sink in just a little fraction. And you wouldn't want that to be sinking outward from the back side. Alright, we're going to flip this bumper over and we're going to finish these welds. Okay, we're going to show you how to do some tabs. And I love to do a tab from the bottom side if possible, and I'll show you after I do them and turn it over. But on this one I can't do it from this side, so I'm going to do it here, here, and here. So first of all, get you a piece of tape, aluminum tape, and put it to where you're going to shield that heat going down that way. Same thing is true with this one out here where the screw goes in. Now this is where the screw goes in and holds it up to the quarter panel itself. Now if need be, you can also bend these pieces of aluminum to where they'll give you a little strength. Same thing's true here with this one. Now what I usually do is I get me a paint paddle and I will put this paint paddle to where I can get me a that paint paddle will help hold that weld for me, or rather keep it from falling and sagging through. So I'm just going to lightly tighten that up. Alright, I'm going to knock that paint off that you see there just a little bit. It will usually melt that paint out of your weld. I want you to take note of the fact that I brought my cradle out and I set it on this pedestal behind me out of my way, so I wouldn't bump it. But always remember, make sure you don't let that welder turn to where it's putting heat directly against that bumper if you're going to use these pedestals. Because you don't want it to heat that bumper and cause a hole to be in it while you're sitting there getting your bumper ready. Alright, I'm going to heat this rod and get it glassy. About the time it gets ready to cave or and melt, I'm going to set it down and I'm going to feel this little gap. All I'm doing is riding that little bubble. When I get it, then I'm going to melt it off. And I'm going to melt it down just a little bit. Same thing is true up here now. Now you can take your welder on these like this and kind of lightly melt the edge where you'll be beveling it. In a lot of cases, because you're going to lose a lot of weld down in where that gap is at, you're going to actually kind of what I call bridging over. And you get that done, melt that off, and this is where that wet rag will come in handy to get that cool, because it gets awful limber for you. So if you kind of cool it, it'll stiffen back up with you. See, it stiffened back up with me good. Same thing's true here. We just lightly heat that where that hole has got to be put back. And we're actually going to eliminate that hole temporarily. Same thing is, you kind of let that rod melt over and then start melting again. Once it's melted over, burn it off on the back side. Now, you can take your welder and kind of smooth up your weld. Because remember, you're on the bottom side. Once you get it, look how clean that all looks. You can take this back off out of your way. Take the welder and get it out of the way. Take that same tool you was using to clean that up with and get over here on these edges. Get it to where it feels decent enough to use it. You can get it perfectly smooth this way. Pull your tapes off. Now, you can take this tool and you can clean these welds up down the edge with it by just simply getting on it like this. is I took this 80 grit on this little Velcro tool here, and I smoothed all this up good. It's just as smooth as it would have been if it would have been never torn. What I'm going to do here is show you that when you drill a hole back, use this pointed burr tool. Like for instance, if you want to get that right there back where it belongs, simply either get in it on the back side where you can reach it, or just get here like this. Now, that hole's ready to go back for the big bumper to go back on vehicle. We're going to flip this bumper. Go ahead. What I wanted to show you is, by welding it from the back side, you notice you don't have nothing but a little bit of weld showing here. And on this hole, you completely fill the hole. But what you do have to do is to drill it back. You've got to drill it where you can see where the hole is. So we're going to use the pointer tool. And what we're going to do, what you actually done there was you melted that hole back in there. I always make them just a teeny bit bigger than they originally was. On these, you simply got to clean out that square. Remember this, it doesn't matter if it's a little rounded at the end, because this is the area that holds. So what we're going to do, we've got that hole made back. So alright, what we can use here to knock this weld down before we get ready to put primer on it and then go into your step of your filler is this is a 24 grit Rolex, not Rolex, Rolex. And we're going to lightly knock down these ridges on this weld with it. You'll notice it mostly melted. You can come back with some 80 grit on that little Velcro pad and kind of lighten it. Now, no matter which one of them tools you use, you end up with it smearing some, and you can't leave that on there. That's the reason for taking this 8-inch sander, and it will clean it out of there. Because watch what it's going to do. That did is it cleaned every bit of that where it had melted out of there. Then come back and do your feather edging and your cleaning up for your primer. I always take a piece of 180 and make for sure I get rid of any of that glassiness or shininess of those where that weld is, where I didn't get down in there with the sander. Now you can also take a piece of Scotch-Brite and get down in there. Main thing is you don't want to leave it shiny. You want it to be the same as that other feather-edged area out there. Now, once you get that, all right, make sure you clean all of that shininess out. You can even take that burr tool if you see a place like I do right here. The idea is you don't want to leave it to where there's a little shiny place or anything that your filler or primer can't hold to. Which this would be true even if you was doing metal. Blow it off. Alright, now what we're doing is we're putting some waterborne primer on here. Now here's the reason. This area right here is raw bumper. The welds are raw bumper. If you put a primer over this that is an aggressive one that has thinners in it or anything that's aggressive, it's going to cause these release agents to come up out of this bumper, which makes your primer not hold good. It'll also make your filler turn loose. Now, what guarantees your filler to stick real good is to put a coat of waterborne on this bumper. And I always just putting it a little bit right out into the area where I've done the weld. And where I'm going to put my filler. Just put you a good light coat where you've got that whole area covered good with it. Because you're going to come back and prime the rest of this after you get your filler on there. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to lightly sand over this area right here with some 180. Just enough to be able to get your filler where it'll have something to grab to. Because as you know, sandpaper grit marks are kind of like alligator teeth when it comes to making filler hold. Take a Scotch-Brite, get down in your places that pulled in on you. The main thing is you want that filler to stick to the primer. You don't want it trying to stick to the raw bumper. Alright? Okay, what we're going to use on here is a polyester filler. And the reason being, you want some flexibility in your filler. So we're going to smear this on there, or wipe it on there, or what you call it. You can go ahead and okay, we've got our filler on there. We're going to wait for it to set up, and then all we do then is sand it just like you was fixing a dent on a fender or any other part on an automobile. You work your filler down smooth, put another coat of waterborne primer on it, and go ahead and sand it again. If you have to need another coat, that's up to you how far out you finish it. And then you get it to the point that you can send it to your painter over in the paint shop. Little tip we want to give you on the tail end of this video is this. You get a lot of bumpers that they're only caved in. Some of them be just a little bit, but it looks awful and it looks like something that you ought to throw the bumper away, and most shops are. But remember this, when a bumper's caved in, pushing toward the vehicle from the outside of the vehicle, outside of the bumper, you heat this side and you push on this side. You never heat the back side and this side. You only heat one side. Now the point is you heat it till it's uncomfortable to the hand. In this case, you put your hand on the back side and you warm that until you feel the heat. Now if it was pointing out this way, you would heat the back side. And you do get a lot of bumpers that's got little wrinkles that sticking outward, so you heat the back side. Never heat both sides. Now the trick is you start with the outer ring and heating it. And as you're heating it, a bumper has a small, polypropylene bumpers has a small amount of memory, not a lot. It'll come back to some shape. You've got to force it to come back 100%. Now, like this bumper, it is not that bad, and it probably is going to pop right back out. And a glove comes in handy sometime when you get a little too much on one. Now, sometimes when you get one and you pushed it back out, you'll feel a little, what I call an outer ring, bullseye. What you do is you mark that where you'll know where it is, and you can feel, a good body man can tell where any wrinkle is at. Once you get that and you find it, you take your heat gun at that point and you go over to the back side and you heat only that area where that's at. You can take an old screwdriver like this and work the material and make that go back down. Now that was what I was showing you, is that is when the bumper is pushing outward, and it does that because when the wrinkle comes back it'll be high. But then you can work that down, smooth it up, and in most cases, a whole lot of cases, you can actually do the work, get it back in place, and never have to do no paint work. If you do have to do any, take you some 80 grit on your old big sander and first work that area, and then take and feather edge it, put you some waterborne primer, and then put you a little bit of filler and finish it, and you'll eliminate the whole problem. And that's the best information I can give you on dealing with bumpers that's been caved in.